Hello everyone, how are you? This is Kim from Kimberbell Designs, and you're here with Tuesday Tips with Kimberbell. And today we're talking about something a little bit different because of what's going on in the world as we know it. So right now, of course, the coronavirus is a big deal, and it's definitely a scary thing, and I think everyone out there wants to know, what can I do? What part can I play? Well, of course, the first part would be to stay home when you can. That's an important thing that all of us can do. But the second thing people are asking for are masks. Now, this is a thing that there's a lot of debate out there. You know, do you make masks? Do you not make masks? What materials do you use? And the hard thing is that for every good source out there, there's 100 other ones that you're not sure what to believe. And so there's a lot of mixed messages, and I'm sure you would agree with that. So we've been doing a lot of research here at Kimberbell, and I'm not gonna say that we actually even found the answer, but we found some very good, reliable information, of course, from the CDC and other hospitals who are saying, yes, we need this. It may be the last resort, but they're still needed. Whoops, there we go. But they're still needed. And so we've compiled what we think would be the best information to give you. But again, I'm not a doctor, and so we want you to do your research on these things and do what you feel good about. What's really cool though is that we have come across several websites that we will link that here on our Facebook page and on the Kimberbell blog, where they are actually matching people who want to make these face masks or mask covers with organizations and hospitals and such that are requesting them. And so you can feel good about doing your part to make these masks, that they're not going to go to waste. So anyhow, we will link you up to that, because I think that's a really important factor with this. So the very first thing, of course, I want to say is, of course, thank you for being here. And I will show you how easy these are to make. We've created an in the hoop pattern for those who machine embroider. I know there are literally hundreds of patterns out there for those who sew. So if you sew only, that's awesome. Do what you can to make as many masks as you can. But for those who machine embroider, there's not as many patterns out there for that. So we are offering this as a free download at kimberbell.com. And anyhow, that will be available tomorrow, which is Wednesday, March 25th at kimberbell.com. That will be a download with all the step-by-step instructions that you can print out and all the file formats for the different machines that are out there, including Bernina, Babylock, Janome, Husqvarna, Viking, you name it, it's out there. So anyway, the important thing to know on this particular cover, we're calling it a mask cover, is that it's not going to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, unfortunately. It absolutely is something that a lot of hospitals and companies are asking for as a way to cover their already medical graded masks, often known as N95 masks. So these are literal covers for those masks. And why is that important? Well, they need to prolong the life of those N95 masks. And so making these fabric covers with the way that we're doing them is what has been asked for. Of course, all hospitals and organizations are going to vary on their thoughts on that. And so it's important to find a place that does want them and does want them this way. Now, I don't recommend picking up the phone and calling them. They are probably overwhelmed with people asking what kinds of masks you want. The better option would be to go to the links that we're going to hook you up with to say, hey, what kind of needs are there and how can we fulfill them, and they'll make a match there. So anyway, that's what I wanted to mention too. So the thing about these masks are that it's really simple to do, and if you have an embroidery machine and some quilter's cotton, you're in good luck. Good hands, I guess I should say. You're in luck. All right, so the very first thing, I guess I should show you what the mask even looks like. Here we go. Looks pretty simple right now. It does fold out, expand to give you full coverage. And you're gonna notice something a little different about these masks that we put together in the hoop. Gosh. And that is these loops. And I will explain why when we get to those loops, why that's important. But they are a little bit different than what you've seen out there. The other thing I absolutely love about these masks, we've tried a lot of different ones to see what's gonna be the best coverage, is definitely the coverage. Take a look at this. And it will cover my nose, and it's gonna go extend all the way down below my chin and to my neck. So I had my husband put this on, and you know, he's got a big head. And this was able to give him full coverage too, across the nose and down into the neck. So we really like the amount of coverage this has. We also like the idea of the loops on the ends. And again, I'll tell you why that's important here in a minute. So to get started, you're gonna wanna download your file at kimberbell.com. The very first thing you're gonna do is hoop your stabilizer. We used a cutaway stabilizer. You will need a 6x10 hoop, okay? The very first step is gonna have you stitch a placement line for your fabric, and you're going to line your fabric, your first fabric, up across this top line. Now, I forgot to mention what fabric you need. You're gonna want a front piece, a back piece, and then your ties, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. These pieces are 8 by 10.5 inches each. Now, another kind of thing that's cool about this pattern, or what it's requiring, is that you use 2 different fabrics, one for the front and one for the back. We read that there were nurses asking for 2 different colors of fabric on each side. And why is that important? Well, because it makes total sense after I read their recommendations. If I'm wearing this, and I'm a healthcare worker or just someone at home, then I'm gonna want to make sure that whatever side is facing out is not the side that I'm going to put back on my face when I go to use this again, right? So that way you can always know which side faces you and which side faces you know, the people that you're talking to. So then when you remove that mask, you simply can remove it, fold the right sides together, and toss that in the washing machine, okay? So use 2 different colors of fabric. Now, we already stitched out this placement line that you see here. The next thing I'm gonna do is actually line up this fabric piece to the top here. Okay, for you it's probably on the, is it on the left side that they're seeing? Okay. When I put it on my machine, I look at this as being the top, okay? So I'm gonna just line that there, and I'm gonna just center it from side to side. Okay, and the first step is going to do a tack down stitch right along the top here. Can you see that?
I'm going to come around to the back so we can see you better, Kim.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
A couple of people have asked questions if we are giving this pattern away for free, and the answer is yes. It will be available tomorrow for download from kimberbell.com.
Yep.
We will also post it on our Facebook page.
Okay, so what you're seeing here, of course, is that first tack down stitch, okay? We're going to do a series of folds. So we're going to take this fabric from our left side and move it over to the right side and just give it a little finger press across there. Notice where it stopped, right there at the end of that tack down line. Okay, so again, folding from the left to the right, I'm gonna give it a little finger press, and then I'm gonna put it back in the machine. And it's gonna stitch just a little bit up here and a little bit here, and that's gonna give us our pleat. So let's put that on there and stitch that. And notice how I'm just kind of holding it to the right here. Okay, it's just done those little stitch lines. That means that it's time to take our fabric and just gently move it over back to the left, right up into that point. See, it's not going to go any further. You want to be really gentle with it. Give it a little finger press, okay? And now it's going to stitch that pleat down.
Kim, we have a couple questions. No need to put shape flex on the fabric?
That is a really good question, and I'll talk about that here just when this machine stops so everyone can hear that.
Okay. And what size hoop?
A 6 by 10 hoop. Okay. All right, now just for the sake of seeing it on the camera better, I'm actually going to remove my hoop, but all of this can be done on the bed of the machine without having to remove the hoop. But I want to show you what I'm doing next. So I'm going to now take the left side of my fabric and pull it over to the right. Again, I'm stopping right where that tack down stitch is, pull it to the right, and just give it a little finger press, okay? And now that's going to stitch my next pleat.
And Kim, what stabilizer are you using?
This is a cutaway stabilizer. Okay, so the next step is I take my fabric from the right side, and what do? I move it over to the left. Look at that pleat right there. I'm going to give it just a little finger press and then start my machine.
Carol asked a question, will this be available for all machine formats?
Yes, it will. Okay. So I'm going to stop there, but you're going to continue to do that from the left to the right till you have a third pleat. Okay? So it just takes, it's only about a 5-minute stitch out. Altogether, after everything's cut, you're going to have it done in about 15 minutes. Okay? So then I will move it back over, stitch, move it back, and it's going to stitch it down. Now, someone asked about the stabilizer, right?
Correct.
Or the interfacing. A lot of, that's also a debate out there. A lot of places are saying, yes, you need to line it with a fusible, non-woven interfacing. And I agree with that. I love it. We used that on one of the samples we made. And that works really well, I believe, as an extra barrier. But for these mask covers that are to cover the N95, it's better to use 2 layers of 100% cotton fabric is what they're asking for, without anything in between. Because then it's going to be more breathable, I guess you could call it. So that is what the hospitals and other places that are looking for these fabric masks that I've seen out there, that's what they're asking for. Now, if I were to do this at home for myself, my kids, my neighbor, there's a lot of places that are asking for them, dental offices, postal workers, you name it. There's a lot of need out there. And if I was going to the grocery store or whatever the circumstance is, and you're not trying to prevent spread of spread of the coronavirus, but rather just try to protect yourself a little bit more from keeping your hands on off of your face. That's one thing that I tend to do is I like to, rub my nose, and then I go rubbing my eyes, and pretty soon I'm scratching, my eyes and my nose and my cheeks. this cover is good to help prevent that. And I would use the interfacing for that type of purpose. But for the mask covers, simply 2 layers of the cotton fabric is going to be just fine. Okay, does that help answer that question?
I think so.
Okay, so the next thing that's going to happen, notice we've got our 3 pleats, and then I'm going to press it with an iron. So I just took my iron and pressed those pleats nice and flat. See the difference here? Here they're up, now they're nice and flat. Okay, so I would do that, and then my next step is to make these tack down lines, or placement lines, I guess I should say, for the ties, for the loops. So I put it in red just so that you can see it a little bit better, but there's 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, okay? And then we made these little loops. Now again, all the very specific instructions for doing this is going to be in that download, but basically what we did is we took a strip, let's see, it was 1 inch by 12 inches, and we folded it like a bias tape. Okay, that will be in the directions. So we folded that up just like so, and you can see they're pretty skinny. And then we took that 12-inch length and then subcut it into 4 3-inch pieces. Okay, so I've got 4 of these, 3 inches each. What I want to do is fold this in half, just like this, and have them butt together here. Okay, not on top, just butting side by side. And then I'm going to take some tape. Let me grab this. This is our paper tape. And the nice thing about it is that it's something that you can use on your embroidery machine, and it's going to tear away nice and easy once you're done with it. And I want to put my loop towards the center. And I'm going to put my 2 raw edges about 1/2 inch past this placement line. Okay? So I'm going to lay that there, side by side, about 1/2 inch beyond the placement line. Do you see that little red line? Okay. And once I place that, I'm going to take my piece of paper tape and put it across. Okay. The other thing I want to make sure and do is tape down the loop, because you don't want that to get caught in your machine. Okay. So I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. Again, they're just butted up next to each other, side by side. Going to take our tape. We're going to put the loop towards the center, and we're going to place that about 1/2 inch beyond the placement line and tape. Now make sure when you're taping this down that you don't get too close to this outer stitch line. Let me show you what that. You're going to have just a little bit of space in between them. And the final step will go over that stitch line, so as long as you're far away from that, you're good. Okay? And then we'll just tape the loop. Do the same thing there. Okay? And you're going to do that on all 4 sides. Once you've done that, you can put it back in your machine, and it's going to do a really nice heavy-duty tack down line, which I'll show you in this next hoop. Okay? All right. See, that is a really nice tack down line. That loop is not going anywhere. It's been stitched and stitched and stitched and stitched, so it stays put and in place. Okay? So now once I've done that, I'm going to remove the paper tape. See, it just comes off really easily, and it comes off really easy from this tack down line too. Okay. All right, now you're ready to put it back in your machine and do the next step, which is the back. Now you're going to take your second piece of fabric. It's again 8 by 10.5 inches, and you're going to place it with the right side facing down. And you're going to line it up right across the top where that first fabric was lined up, okay? So I want to place it right there, not right there, not where the line is, right up to the top where the fabric is, okay? And I'm going to take my tape and just give it a little tack down here on each corner so that doesn't shift, Put it back into the machine. And it's like the process is going to start all over again. Now let me forward my machine a little bit because we've already done some of those steps. Here we go. Now we're at the part where we're going to do the tack down, just like you did the very first, the front part of your mask. So it's going to tack it down across the top.
Kim, a couple of people are asking about the tape.
Yeah.
Where can you get that awesome tape?
It is sold through quilt shops, or machine shops. So you can find it, since a lot of those shops are closed now, they would appreciate your business online too. So, yep, that's where you can get it. Okay?
That is the Kimberbell paper tape.
Yes. So then you're going to go back again, and it'll stitch, and then you'll go back and forth and back and forth. Now, let me tell you why we did it this way. Okay? Some of you out there might be thinking, oh, I have to pleat this backside too? Why do I have to pleat the backside? Well, I'm happy to tell you, through a lot of trial and error, there's a reason for it. So the first thing we tried was actually pleating both layers together at the same time. Well, look at the mess that caused. When we turned it inside out, it was a jumbled mess because that doesn't work when you're doing it in the hoop, okay? So that was out the door. Then the next thing we tried is, well, what if you pleated the front and then on the back it was just a solid piece? And so we tried that, and while the front looks really good and the back is not pleated, it still covers a little bit, as you can see, but about to the end of my chin. It just doesn't have the full coverage. So it is worth it, my friends, to do both sides. It might take a few extra minutes, but it's worth it because you're going to have maximum coverage. Let me show you the difference. So this is ours that has the full coverage because you have it pleated separately on both sides. And then this is one through trial and error. We tried one way of doing it, and you've got about another extra inch, inch and a half, 2 inches coverage. So it is worth spending the time to do it a second time, okay? So you're going to go ahead, let's see, where are we at here? We would go back and forth and back and forth, right? Until we're done. See, it doesn't take very long at all. I'm going to take this out. Now, once it's done, I would keep it in the hoop. Now, we didn't have another hoop to put this in, so I just took it out of the hoop. But the next step is to actually cut the stabilizer away from the back. If you didn't cut that stabilizer, of course, the pleats aren't going to work, right? They're not going to fan out like they're supposed to. So, let me grab some scissors here.
Kim, while we're grabbing scissors, a couple of clarifying points. The dimensions of the fabric cuts?
8 by 10.5.
Thank you.
2 pieces of 8 by 10.5. And then for your little loops, you're going to do 1 by 12 inches and then fold them in like you do bias tape. And then you'll subcut that into 4 different 3-inch pieces. All that's going to be listed on your printout. Okay. So I want to cut out all this background stabilizer that's inside this box. Now you're seeing lots of knots here, and that's because you are at your embroidery machine, it's automatically knotting that fabric or that thread at the end of each of those stitches. So that's why that's there. So I'm just going to poke a little hole to get started, and then I can take my scissors and just cut around it. Okay? I think it's easier to do this part when it's still in the hoop, but it's up to you. If you popped it out of the hoop at this point, you could do it just like I'm doing here. Okay, cut that off. All right, now we're ready to cut a 1/4 inch around on all 4 sides, And right here where there's the opening, I'm actually going to cut it about 1/2 inch outside of that, just so that when we tuck that fabric in, you've got enough room to play with. Do we have any fabric scissors? Maybe instead of using the scissors, those aren't the good fabric scissors that we should have here at Kimberbell, right? I'm actually going to use a rotary cutter. Okay. All right, so you're going to cut 1/4 inch on the outside. Okay, when I get here, I'm going to be really careful because I want to extend my cut out and over and in and that 1/4 inch. Okay. Oh, just barely. Okay. See how that works? 1/4 inch around, about another 1/2 inch outside of that opening. Now, normally, when we do something like that, we turn out the corners, I like to say snip those corners because that's going to reduce the bulk there. But I'm going to say on this one, don't snip the corners, because if you got too close to those threads, then it's just going to make that unravel. So we don't want to take any chances. Just doesn't matter how cute it is. Just go ahead and turn it inside out with the corners and all. Okay. All right. So we're going to do that. Now you're going to have possibly some paper tape in there. It just comes right out. Comes right out of that seam, no problem. Okay. Ta-da! Now what we would do is take it over. You can just kind of pull at each of those loops, and you don't even need to worry about cutting those corners, right? And we're going to turn that seam inward, take it to your sewing machine, and just do a straight stitch along there. Okay. Now, why do I like these loops? A lot of things that I've been reading is about, what is the best way to put these masks on? Is it elastic? Is it ribbon? Is it fabric ties? And there's good reasons and bad reasons for all of them, right? But what we thought is this way, it's really going to stand up to washing. You don't have to worry about your elastic having latex, or you don't have to worry about the life of ribbon unraveling, or whatever it may be, as it goes through really quite a bit of washes and bleach, sanitation, and such. So this was the best way we found to not only be able to do this in the hoop without having a bunch of extra ties to work around, but also so that you could easily just put that in the washing machine and have it sanitized, and then not worry about those ties. Now, to make the ties to go on this, we have found a really good way to keep it on, and to keep it on nice, tight, and strong. And that is to either make a fabric tie. What we did is we took that 1 inch piece and made it 21 inches in length, and did the bias tape folding, which again will be on the download, and we made a little tie, okay, a thin tie. I know some sewing machines will have a special foot that can do those ties really easily for you. Sergers can have the ability to do those ties, but that's how we did it, is we just made it like a bias tape and did a top stitch down it. Again, 1 inch by 21 inches, okay, for each corner. Now, once that's done, you're going to make a loop and we're going to tie a fisherman's knot in this. So I'm just going to take this end here, and at 17 inches, I'm going to go over 1.5 inches. I'm going to, or 2.5 actually, that's what I want to do. 2.5, okay, or to go 1, 2.5. I'm going to put my finger there, and I'm going to bring this down, okay? Really easy. 2.5 inches over, bring this down, so now you have a loop, right? Then I'm going to put that loop through this loop. Oh, promise it's really simple. And then put both strings, or both sides here, through the top. And there you go. That tie is not going anywhere, my friends. It is not going anywhere. That is what Lori would call a fisherman's tie, right, Lori? That is as strong can be, okay? That is not going anywhere. The nice thing about this is that if you wanted to use ribbon or twill tape or, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of things you could do. I've heard of people like cutting up t-shirts, anything like that. You could still use that, but once it wore down through washes, what do? You just simply untie it or cut it off, and you still have your loops, but now you can finish it with anything you want. So whether you do your own strings or you use something as simple as ribbon, you can just tie it onto those loops. So we really like that aspect of the loops as well. Now, let me show you one more time. Let's get a strip here. How to do that. Do I have another strip? Maybe not. Oh, here we go. Okay. For everyone wondering, again, we're going to start over here at the 1 inch mark, or 0 right here. We're going to take our piece and we're going to go 2.5 inches, approximately, somewhere around there. Fold it down, just right there. Okay, now I've got my loop. I'm going to take it, my loop, and put it through this loop. Okay, can you see that? Then I'm going to take these two sides and put them through the top loop. And pull. Okay, again, that, Lori and I had a tug of war today. We were tugging and tugging and tugging just to make sure that was gonna stay tight, and it does. It really does. So that's not going anywhere. Now, if you want, you could cut off the extra and leave about, you know, a 1/4 inch, or well, maybe more like an inch there. But certainly this is something that could be on there all the time, especially if you use the cotton fabric, and that's going to hold up in the wash really well. But if you use ribbons or other kinds of ties, because that is definitely going to be faster, then it's not going to be a problem, because as soon as it's worn out through the wash, you just cut it off and add a new ribbon to your loop. Okay? Any questions out there?
I'm going to come back around.
Okay.
I don't think so. People want to know, again, when the download will be available and if written instructions will be included.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, we have taken step-by-step pictures of every single step that I talked about today. We've written the instruction. We've got all the measurements that you need. It's all available on the free download at Kimberbell.com. That will be available tomorrow, which is Wednesday, March 25th. So we're just going through the last rounds of testing on all the different machine types. So whether you have, you know, if you use the ART format, the PES, the EXP, the VIP, the VP3, the HUS, the JEF, the XXX, or the, am I missing one, guys? Which one? I've got, oh, EXP, yeah. All of them, they're all gonna be on that download, okay? Now, let me see, I'm just taking a look at a couple of my notes so that I don't miss anything. Oh, one of the things that was asked is, do I pre-wash my fabric? And the answer is yes. On this, I would definitely pre-wash your fabric to take care of any shrinkage before it's sent off to wherever the need is. The nice thing, well, the thing that's important about that, I guess I should say, is that if you're pre-washing your fabric, you're taking care of any shrinkage before you sew it. And then those places that are asking for it will most likely put it through another additional sterilization process in washing it, but at least you've taken care of preventing it from shrinking anymore through that. So definitely pre-wash your fabric. Again, I did not use any interfacing on our sample because these are mask covers and they are meant to cover the medical grade masks, which are known as N95 masks, and that is what is running on short supply. But if I were doing this for myself to prevent myself from touching my face or my kids or whatnot, adding in an extra layer of interfacing is a good idea, always a good idea, I think. So anyway, yeah.
Couple other questions.
Yeah.
Remind us the hoop size one more time.
Okay, the hoop size is a 6x10 size. So you need at least a 6x10. Of course, if you have an 8x12 or larger, you can definitely use those, but it is going to be a 6x10 because you need it to go nice and wide and long here, okay?
Are we gonna make this in a smaller size for children?
That is a good idea. You know what, we certainly can do that. Yep, absolutely. It's not available as of today, but I like that idea. We'll work on one for children, for sure.
And one more question is, how will they know when the download is available?
We will definitely be putting it out there on social media, and we will send it out in our newsletter as well. So be sure to sign up for our newsletter at kimberbell.com, or just follow us on Facebook, which is Kimberbell Designs. We also have a private Facebook group called Kimberbell is a Fellas, and we have an Instagram account, Kimberbell Designs. We will be sure to put it out there for everyone to know that it is available, and it will be very, very soon. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Friends, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of great resources. I always recommend going to the CDC website. We will link that below, as well as the other websites that I found that are pairing and matching people up with who wants them and who needs them, or who wants to make them, I guess I should say, and who is asking for them, who needs them. That's a great combination. So anyway, I love that everyone out there is doing what they can to help. And again, there's lots of sewing machine patterns out there. I highly encourage you to find one of those if you are a sewer. And if you are a machine embroiderer, there's definitely some machine embroidery ones out there that I encourage you to take a look and see what works best for you. So, okay, that's it. Thank you, everyone, and be well, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.